Hi everyone, Nico from Secure Corner here, and today I'm gonna do a little comparison between the Tosibox Log 150 and the Note 175. These are fairly similar in their specs, and we got a lot of questions recently on which of these devices has which features, what are the differences, and which should I get, where are my benefits from using one or the other. And that's what we are gonna look at today. So I'd say let's start with the Log 150. And we have the ports all on the front here. And the first one that we can see is the USB port, where we can plug in a 3 or 4G router, a LTE modem. Make sure if you're using one or if you're getting one specifically for the Tosibox, make sure you check online on the Tosibox page which ones are supported, because if you get any USB modem, it might not actually work. So definitely make sure you check that. And you also can use that to match a key. So just take your Tosibox key, plug it into the USB port, wait about 10 to 20 seconds usually. It should start blinking in a blue tone, and after it stopped you can pull it out. Sometimes it doesn't blink, but if you want to be safe, just wait half a minute to a minute and you're good to go. Now, next up you have the WAN connection, which is just to plug in your local connection from your router. And after that you have 3 LAN connections to plug in devices. And you also have a separate service port. So if you plug in a PC, then type in the 172.17.17.17, you will be redirected to the Tosibox web UI. And from there you can do all sorts of configuration for the Tosibox. This is especially useful if you have no internet connection on the log, or you just can't connect via the IP address. Just connect a PC via a Ethernet cable to the service port, and you can fix some problems on there if, again, the general connection does not work and you can't connect otherwise. The Tosibox also does have a reset button here, but the problem with the reset button is it doesn't actually reset. So if you do the first configuration and you change the password that it's on the back of the Tosibox, definitely make sure to save that somewhere, because it will be a fairly difficult process to actually recover that. Also, we do have 2 slots for antennas, where you can screw them in. These are only for Wi-Fi. This is a common misconception. These are not for LTE connection, these are just for Wi-Fi. You can plug in two of these, and this will increase the Wi-Fi strength and range. And that's pretty much all to say there. And on the front you do have the indicators for the LEDs. So power, Wi-Fi, if you have a service port plugged in, the 3 LAN connections, and in general if you have internet connection. That's basically it for the Log 150. So I'd say let's swap to the 175. Now, if we look at the front here, you can immediately see that we only have 2 ports for a WAN connection and a LAN connection. Obviously, for the WAN connection, just plug in your router or a switch from your router, wherever your home internet comes from. And on the LAN port, you can plug in one device, but you also can reconfigure this LAN port to a service port. So just hold down the the reset button for a couple seconds, then the LAN port should be reconfigured to a service port after a restart, and then you can use that to visit the 172.17.17.17, just like with the Log 150, in order to reach the web UI if you don't have internet connection with the thing, to use the IP address. You also have 4 indicators for the power, the mobile connection, the Wi-Fi, and WAN. And on the backside here, you have 2 connections or connectors for antennas. One which is for 4G, which is the mobile connections, and the other for 2.4G. So 2.4G for Wi-Fi and the 4G for the mobile connection. So on the log 150 you have two, both for Wi-Fi. On this you have one for Wi-Fi, one for the LTE connection. You can put in a SIM card on here. So you have just take a pin, a needle, something like that, push into this yellow little button here, then the SIM card should come out. Put in your own SIM card, plug it back in, and after a restart you have the internet connection. You might need to enable it in the Tosibox web UI. And that's pretty much it for the backside here. One important thing, again, this thing does already have the LTE modem built in, so you don't need an extra one. You don't need to buy an extra one. Obviously, if you have one and maybe this one has a 5G connection with a Ethernet port, you can also use that to connect to the WAN port on the other side. And yeah, that's pretty much it. One more thing, you don't have a USB port, so you actually cannot connect a key to this thing. So the only way is to remote match. You have to take your key, plug it into your computer, then visit the web UI via the service port or just plug it into the LAN connection and visit the IP. Then create a remote key or generate a remote connection code and type in that code into the key software to match it, and you're connected to this device. So that's pretty much the general differences between these two devices. So let's look at them in conclusion. So both of these devices have 10 VPN connections that you can use consecutively. So if you need more, you will need another Tosibox or a different model. Both of these have 10 megabits throughput. So through the VPN, you will get 10 megabits per connection on these Tosibox. And both of them also have Wi-Fi. So you can use the Wi-Fi in a client mode to connect the Tosibox to a Wi-Fi, or you can enable Wi-Fi on the Tosibox to connect devices to the Tosibox Wi-Fi. One of the two is possible. You have 3 LAN connections on the log 150 and one on the node 175. So if you do need a couple more LAN connections, which some devices like some machinery do need, you are better off with the 150 if you do need these LAN connections. To connect a key to the device on the 150, you can connect it via USB or via remote matching. So both is possible. Thus on the 175, you can only remote match. So you cannot plug the USB key into the device. You have to remote match it. On the 150, you also have the separate service port. So reconfiguring stuff on there is definitely easier on the log 150 because you don't have to always press the reset button or hold the reset button to reconfigure the LAN port on a node to a service port, unless you don't actually need the LAN port on the node and connect everything via Wi-Fi or whatever. And then you can just leave the LAN port as a service port on the node, and it shouldn't be really much of a difference then for you. Now, one of the most important differences is that the node 175 already comes with a built-in LTE modem. So if you are looking for a Tosibox and you're planning on having a separate connection, so not from your router's connection, and you were looking for a mobile connection on there, you're definitely better off to get the 175, which already comes with the LTE modem, compared to the 150, where you would have to get the 150 and then buy a separate USB modem. The 175 also is easier to mount right out of the box. So you do have these little spots for mounting on a wall or whatever. Just screw them in and this is a little bit easier on the 175. For the 150, you would have to get a separate mounting bracket. And the 175 also is quite a bit cheaper, so it's about $100 or euros cheaper than the log 150. So yeah, I hope this cleared some of the questions up. If this video has helped, I'm obviously happy about that, and I'll see you in the next video.